ago, we listened to the presentation of John the Baptizer in the Gospel of Mark. You might be wondering, why are we reading this same scripture again? This week we get John's similar, but importantly, different presentation of this strange, wilderness-dwelling, locust and honey-eating man. Now, in contrast to Mark, which simply presents John out there in the wilderness, crying out for the people to be baptized, to change their ways and prepare for the coming of the Messiah, John's gospel offers us an extended discourse, an intriguing dialogue between John and the Pharisees, another sect of Judaism, out there in the wilderness. Who is he, they want to know. And why is he doing what he's doing and proclaiming the things he's proclaiming? Are you the Messiah? They ask. I am not, John says. What about the great prophet Elijah? Are you Elijah returned to us? No, I am not, he says again. What about the prophet, presumably meaning a new Moses, this great figure who had led their ancestors from slavery to freedom? Maybe John was there to lead them from tyranny under Rome and to the freedom of self-rule. Nope. Not him either, John says. Well, sir, then who the heck are you, and why are you doing what you're doing? Now, it's fascinating here as you dig in, or perhaps frustrating if you're the Pharisees, is that John deflects their question of self-identification, and in so doing, shifts the focus from himself onto one among you whom you don't even know. The light that is to come. You see, I baptize with water as a symbol of change and renewal in your life, but this one will baptize with fire. That is, with the power to truly transform and alter your lives and our world. But as I listened to John this week, I couldn't help but wonder, maybe you're there with me, was he not tempted at least a little bit to lay hold of such titles or accolades, this prestige that they were heaping on him? I mean, he's not even out there self-promoting. They come to him and they're basically like, hey, we see that you're doing amazing things and that you're going to keep doing amazing things, and we want to offer you the Citizen of the Century Award. What do you think? And John is basically like, you know, I'm not really the one you're looking for, but I know who is. Now, in order to have responded this way, John must have actually known himself pretty well, even though it doesn't sound like it at first through his deflections. Because this is not the response of someone at the beginning stages of grappling with questions of self-worth. Am I good enough? Who am I? No, this is game time. This is the moment that reveals all the work that's already been done. Someone who'd long wrestled with his demons, who had faced his ego, his desire to make a name for himself. For only one who had done that work could respond to others seeking to elevate him by lifting up someone else instead. Indeed, 3 times they ask him, "Who are you?" And 3 times he says, "Ego uk emi." I am not. Did you catch that? Have you learned enough Greek yet through my preaching? No. At the center of John's response is neither a mere deflection onto Jesus, nor is it shame. His insistence that among you is one whose sandals I'm not worthy even to stoop down and untie is not him saying, "No, I'm not who you're looking for. I'm just a loner with no real purpose in life. I'm a loser. The guy you're looking for is down the street over there. No, John isn't here putting himself down, but rather denying his ego. Ego uk emi. I knew you spoke a little bit of Greek. The word for I am in Greek is literally ego. That word that would come to define not the true, authentic self, but an inflated, false sense of self. You see, John responds to their inquiry of a potential elevated status not by getting an inflated ego. Yeah, now that I think about it, now that you say it, I am pretty important. You should honor me. No, in this moment of testing, when life demands an answer of him, John responds by letting go of his ego. By letting go of that false self. That part of ourselves that either out of a feeling of inferiority or superiority thinks that we have to project a larger, stronger image of ourselves so that people will respect us and honor us and listen to us. Now, before John can say, I am, can authentically articulate who he is, he must first know and articulate who he is not. That is, he must first shed his ego. Now, this is a difficult and unwelcome truth to proclaim, and an even more difficult one to live. We in our world, just like the Pharisees and John's world, we don't like this approach very much. Because we are taught to begin and be led throughout our lives by ego, including how we offer charity or philanthropy to others. Our whole life until retirement, or perhaps even then, is all about building up our identity. It's a focus on our sense of self, our value around what we can achieve and acquire. How much money, how beautiful, success, promotions, the perfect family. We are taught to make a name for ourselves, which leads us to constantly compare ourselves to others, which ironically leads us constantly feeling inadequate. Like even after that promotion, even after that accolade or that title, we still don't measure up. When we begin with ego, or perhaps fail to get beyond ego, we will find ourselves stuck on the soul-sucking hamster wheel of never being or never having enough. But the dirty secret, if I can let you in on it, if you don't already know, is that this isn't your failure. See, this is the exact result that the system is designed to produce. Marketers and advertisers know this. They know that if you're going to sell a product, this manipulative psychology is quite useful because it keeps people coming back. They need your product to be beautiful, and then they need it again and again. They need whatever it is that you're selling to have enough, only it never is. It's very effective if you're in advertising. But it's terrible if what you're trying to experience is joy or peace, or to create a world that does. In order to prepare the way for God's reign of true love and joy, of peace with justice, we must embrace the very good but mostly unwelcome news with which John confronts us and our ego-driven world. See, only when I realize that I am no one, when I put to death my ego, can I get off the hamster wheel of trying but always failing to measure up. Like John, this isn't a call to self-disparagement or to be lazy, but about finding our true identity that unlocks our fullest potential and joy See, this off-ramp, off the hamster wheel, is also an on-ramp to the life-changing good news that you are a child of God. I know it's that simple and that difficult. When we embrace this simple but life-altering truth, we realize that we don't create our own value or worth. I don't have to prove to myself, to God, or to anyone else that I'm good or beautiful or successful enough to be loved and to belong. I am a child of God through nothing of my own doing, and as such I am loved with an everlasting love. A belovedness that no shame or disparagement, no attack or violence that I heap on myself or that anyone else heaps on me can ever take away. And when we can claim this truth for ourselves, feel the power of it washing over us, we realize that it also is fundamentally true of everyone else. Everyone. Everyone. And if everyone is a child of God, if everyone is therefore my family, then how can we continue to justify or allow hunger and poverty, war and violence, or racism or mass incarceration? How can we allow our family to be so denied? You see, this is a truth that we can't merely know in our heads. It is a truth we can only know when we live it, when it shapes our lives. When the world demands an answer from us, like it does John in a particular moment. Indeed, only when it is no longer about us can we, like John, truly articulate who we actually are and therefore what is ours to do. Now, at this point in the story, the Pharisees are growing exasperated. You may have noticed. You see, they've been sent by their leaders to figure out who this guy is, and they know that John's non-answer, his deflection of their questions onto someone else, will be no more acceptable to their leaders than it would be to a police officer or the bartender requesting your ID, sir, please. And so they ask him a final time, dude, can you just tell us who you are? We need to take something back. You're creating a stir, and our leaders want to know what you're up to. And echoing the soaring poetry of the prophet Isaiah, he says, I am simply a voice crying out in the wilderness to prepare the way for the coming of our God. I am a witness. I offer testimony. I am a messenger pointing you to the one who is to come. One who is greater than I. One who will reveal the way to the world that we long for. A place where peace and justice will finally kiss each other. Who will show us the way to a world where goodness and truth will spring forth from the ground and compassion will finally rain down from the skies. A world where those who have been pushed to the margins are drawn into an ever-widening circle of care. And those who have been outcast will find room at the inn. The one who shows us the way to a world where all creation experiences healing as we rediscover that we are each other's keeper. How beautiful upon the mountains are the feet of those messengers who bring such good news. Friends, the call for us in Advent is to go into every wilderness, every neighborhood that has been reduced to a ghetto by the forces of segregation, every legislative body filled with ego-driven self-importance, every heart that has been ravaged by the forces of despair, every body that has been disfigured by the forces of superiority. Go into every wilderness, including your own. And there welcome the great I Am, so that you may know who you are and therefore what is and is not yours to do, in making a way for God's light to shine in every shadow cast upon our world. As John the Baptizer goes on to say later in the Gospel, I must decrease. That is, my ego, must decrease. And Jesus, the one who shows us the way of justice and peace and healing, Jesus must increase. Friends, may it be so for our healing and joy, for the healing and joy to all the world.